Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be covering some basic photo retouching skills, primarily focused around the spot healing brush, but I'm also going to be kind of going over some of the other restoration tools that are present within the toolbar. This isn't the limit as to Photoshop's restoration capabilities, but it will give you a decent starting off point and will build a good foundation for your photo restoration project. So, photo restoration is the process of enhancing images by removing imperfections, smoothing skin, and adjusting minor details to create a polished look. Retouching photos can involve removing blemishes, whitening teeth, or refining colors for a more professional experience. Uh, in this lesson, we'll be introducing the different tools categorized underneath the healing brush tool and how to use one of the most useful and versatile tools in this group called the spot healing brush. So first off, we'll want to download our two example photos for this lesson, which is a man in red and black checkered shirt by Andrea Pica Quadillo and a vintage photo of a dog by Susie Hazelwood. And so once you have both of these open in Photoshop, I want you to then look at your toolbar and you can access the spot healing brush tool by pressing J on your keyboard or by locating the spot healing brush tool in the left-hand toolbar. It's the one that looks kind of like a diagonal band-aid a little bit. Uh, the spot healing brush tool works very similarly to the standard Photoshop brush that we talked about in the last lesson, and has many of the same options. You can adjust its size, hardness, and pen shape much like a normal brush. However, unlike a normal brush, you can't adjust the opacity or flow. Instead, you can change how it manages its repair options. So you can access other healing tools by right-clicking on the spot healing brush tool icon in the toolbar. This will show you the following options. First off, we have the spot healing brush, which we already talked about, which is kind of at least my go-to. Then we have the remove tool, which is a new generative AI tool. So you can click and drag around something that you want to remove, and Photoshop will use its Firefly generative AI to try and fill in the space with what it believes should be there. Because it's using generative AI, there are, the normal ethical and uh, environmental concerns, but and sometimes I haven't had a really good result with it yet. But definitely, if you want to try using the remove tool and try removing stuff from each of these photos, feel free to give that a shot. Then we have the healing brush, which is kind of like a version of the spot healing brush that allows you a little bit more control by holding down Option on Mac or Alt on Windows. You can click a source area, and then wherever you then paint afterwards with the healing brush tool, it'll then sample from that source area to try and blend that with whatever you're whatever you're painting over. And then we have the patch tool, which is kind of similar to the healing brush tool, in which you create a sampled area and then you take the sampled area and put it over an area that you wish to fix. But the patch tool is different in that you select an area rather than using Option or Alt. Instead, you click and drag to create a selection, which we'll be covering selections, I believe, next week. But it's just basically you drag and drop, you drag your mouse around to create a circle, a square, some sort of wiggly shape, and that's called a selection. And then you can click and drag that selection to an area in which you want that to kind of appear, and then Photoshop will try to blend that with the area you dragged it to. Then we have the content aware move tool, which allows you to move objects within an image while intelligently filling in the background. It's kind of similar to the remove tool and the patch tool, as it removes the selected area and then tries to move it to the new area. Patch tool doesn't remove the old stuff, it keeps it there, while the remove tool doesn't use anything sampled from the image. And then we have the red eye tool. And this is something that you might have noticed if you've seen old photographs taken with flash, in which you might see this like red circle appear in the iris of someone's eye, and that's just the light kind of bouncing off of the back of someone's eyeball, and it creates this kind of spooky effect. And the red eye tool just allows you to kind of like click to remove that. Very simple tool, but it can be really effective if you're noticing that in your target photography. And so there are also some related tools that are not in this specific like tool group. And so we have the clone stamp tool, which you can access by pressing S. Similar to the healing brush, it duplicates pixels from one area to another using a sampled source, which again, you can sample a source by pressing Alt or Option, depending on your device. And it's very pixel perfect. So unlike the healing brush, the clone stamp won't try to blend your sampled source with the image around it. It'll be just a one-to-one, almost like a pattern brush that you might have used with the brush tool. And so it's really good if you're using like pixel perfect stuff, or if there's a very specific texture you need to capture. But otherwise, it can be kind of unforgiving. So definitely use this one with caution. And this one kind of looks like an old rubber stamp a little bit. Then we also have the dodge and burn tools, which you can access by pressing O on your keyboard. This tool lightens or darkens specific areas to enhance highlights and shadows for depth. So you can see the honestly, these ones are pretty abstract looking symbols, looking canvas for what these look like. But you can also see them by pressing O and then right clicking on the icon to see the different options. Dodge makes things lighter, burn makes it darker, and then sponge. I don't even really know what sponge does. So definitely experiment. I will probably, when I'm editing this together, I'll probably put it in a text blurb to explain what sponge actually does. So subtle adjustments are the key to achieving a natural look when retouching images. Over editing can make an image appear unrealistic. Keep these tips in mind when you're photo retouching for polished results. Once we learn about layers, which I believe we're covering next week, you'll want to be working on a new layer when possible. This allows you to do non-destructive editing, and this allows you to kind of like go back, make changes, and erase things that you've done without affecting the original image. And this is really useful especially if you're working with old images, or if you forget to, save the old file. You want to make these non-destructive edits so that, you can always go back to the original and start over if needed. Uh, and so you can really work with non-destructive editing once you know more about layers by enabling sample all layers when using the spot healing brush or healing brush. It's a little check mark toggle in the brush options. Also make sure that as you're doing edits, you want to adjust the brush hardness and opacity depending on what you need. Softer brushes blend edits more naturally, especially for removing blemishes and skin retouching, but harder ones can be useful for those sorts of really intense textures and stuff where you don't want a weird fading issue going in. Always make sure to like zoom in for detail and zoom out to kind of like see the complete picture. This will help you get a better feeling. And this is useful advice for whatever you're working on, not even just photo retouching. If you zoom in for doing delicate work, then definitely make sure to zoom out to see the full picture as you're working, so that you realize beforehand if you're making any like big compositional mistakes. And then try to keep skin texture intact. We don't want everyone's skin to look super blurry and filtery. Sometimes that can look really unnatural. Like when someone uses a filter on Instagram 10 times and it just looks a little bit off and weird. We kind of want to avoid that when we're doing edits. So this is why like the spot healing brush can be better than using like a brush tool with trying to take out blemishes and stuff, because it maintains the skin texture rather than just painting over it with a flat color. So with all of that said, let's go into what I actually expect from you to do for this assignment. And so I want you to choose one of these two images we downloaded at the beginning of the demonstration, either the more like retouching focused one of a man in a red and black check shirt, or the more restoration focused one of a vintage photo of a dog. And both these are useful to know for different things. And then once you've chosen one of them, I want you to use the tools we talked about in this lesson to kind of make them look a little bit better. You might use the spot healing brush tool to remove blemishes, or you might use it to remove scratches in like film scratches. You might use dodge and burn to increase some contrast where it looks like the photo's been a little bit faded by time, or you might use it to enhance a jawline or to make a nose look a little bit pronounced. There are different ways to use each of these tools, and I encourage you to experiment. And so once you are happy with your retouching or your restoration that you do on one of these two photos, then simply save it as your first name, last name, spot healing assignment as a PSD file. and then put it in your assignments folder inside your AVC 177 Google Drive. And then you'll just need to copy the URL of that, either the folder or the document itself, and put that in the submission field in Canvas. As usual, if you have any questions, concerns, or you just need a little more thorough uh, explanation, feel free to contact me on Canvas. I am always available to talk to you guys and try to help you figure out what I'm talking about. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you at the next lesson. Have a good one.